Hi, welcome to this video where I will be going through a Java assignment that shows three different games: War, Hangman, and Tic-Tac-Toe. In this project, I utilized object-oriented programming skills such as abstract classes, method overriding, and the use of the super keyword. So let's go ahead and get started with the abstract class game. This class defines a basic structure for any of the games by having a name and three abstract methods: initialize, play, and end. It also has a concrete method, display game name, which prints the name of the game. And it also has an abstract method, start game, that is implemented by class subclasses to start the game. Moving on to the war class. Here, we imported array, list, and collections classes for handling list and the shuffling of decks. So I defined the war class, which extends the game abstract class. Here, I declared an array list to represent the deck of cards. And here are two arrays, one to store the 4 suits of cards and the other to store the 13 ranks of cards. This is a constructor that initializes the war class with the name war card game using the super keyword. One of our methods, initialize, sets up the deck of cards by initializing the deck as an array list and using a nested for loop that goes through the deck with all possible card combinations. And here we shuffle the deck to randomize the order of cards. This is a private method called get card value that gets the value of a card based on its rank. It does this by a switch statement that returns the value of the card based on its rank. Moving on to the play method. Here, we print a message that the game is being played, and we check if the deck is empty. It draws 2 cards from the deck and prints the drawn cards and gets the value of these cards. And lastly, it compares the card values and prints the result. The end method prints a message saying the game has ended. And our last method, start game, calls the methods above and displays the game name. Moving on to the Hangman class. I imported all classes from the java.util package, defined the Hangman class that extends the game abstract class. I declared a set to store guessed letters. I declared a string to store the word to be guessed, and I declared an integer to store the number of attempts. We also have a constructor here that initializes the Hangman class, and it also initializes the guessed letters set. Moving on, we have the initialize method, which sets up the word to guess and the number of attempts. And in this case, the word is Java and the number of attempts is 6. The play method, right here. We first create a scanner for user input and print the message that the game is being played and ask the user to guess the word. Next, we have a loop that continues as long as there are attempts left. We print the number of attempts left and ask the user to guess a letter. We read this guess and add it to the set of guessed letters. Check if the guessed letter is in the word. Here we check if all the letters in the word have been guessed. This is a private method that checks if all letters in the word have been guessed by a for loop that iterates through each character in the word. And here, it checks if the set of guessed letters contains the current character. And again, we have our end method and our start game method that combines all of the methods and displays the game name. Now, the tic-tac-toe class. Here we also imported all classes from the java.util package. And we define the class tic-tac-toe that extends the game abstract class. Here is a 2D array that represents the game board and a char variable to represent the current player, another constructor, and the initialize method, which initializes the game board as a 3x3 array, and a for loop that fills the board with spaces to represent the empty cells. We also, in this scenario, the current player is X. Now we move on to the play method. We create a scanner for user input. We print the message indicating the game is being played, and then this while loop loops indefinitely. It calls the display board method to print the current state of the board. It prompts the user for their move, and it reads the row and column entered. Here, we update the board with the current player's move and check if the current player has won. This switches the current player, and it prints a message if the selected cell is already occupied. This is a private method called display board that prints the current state of the board. We have two for loops, one that goes through each row and one that goes through each column. It prints the current cell followed by a space, and then it prints a new line after each row. Here's another private method called check winner to see if the current player has won. We have a for loop that goes through each column and row. And these two check if the current player has won by filling a row or a column. These two if statements check if the current player has won by filling in the main diagonal or the second diagonal. And it returns false if none of the above conditions have been met. And again, we have our end method and our start game method. Now let's move on to the game test class. This is the main method for the application. We start off by creating an instance of the war game, and we call the initialize, play, and end methods. We create an instance of the Hangman game, print an empty line, and call the initialize, play, and end methods. Another empty line, create an instance of the tic-tac-toe game, and call the initialize, play, and end methods. So let's go ahead and run this. So here we are playing the war card game. It has two drawn cards and it says player 2 won. Now we are done with the war game. Now we're moving on to Hangman game. We have 6 attempts left to guess the letters in the word. Let's go ahead and since I already know it, let's speed it up. And I won, the word was Java. So that game is ended. Now we move on to tic-tac-toe, starting with player X. Player X again. Player O. And player X. And I won by making a complete row. And now the tic-tac-toe game has ended, and so has this application. So in conclusion, this application created an abstract class game that defined the structure for all of the rest of the games. There are 3 subclasses: the war game, hangman, and tic-tac-toe, that each have different game logic. And then finally, the game test class initializes and plays each game. And thank you for watching this video.